Hey guys, happy Thursday. All right, so I know it's always hard after a Brewers loss, but let's talk a little bit about what's happening with our forecast. Definitely some changes, something that I talked about yesterday on 12 News at 11, that we could see some changes when it came to rain chances and also even some cooler air coming in. Basically going into this weekend. So first up, let's talk about rain chances. You can see I'm looking at the H trip. It is picking up on a little bit more rain than I expected. I still don't think this is going to be a big deal. And let's watch it as we go through time here. And as you can see, here's today, there's our cold front. Hello, cold front. Also, if I pull up the temperature, you can kind of see that cold front a little bit better. I do want to I want to go ahead and pop back up the reflectivity. That does highlight, really, we're looking for that like directional wind change. You can kind of see it. You have that wind from the south, then you have that wind coming in from the west. So that's really helpful and basically kind of highlighting that activity. But watch this, right around 12Z, so about, 7 o'clock in the morning, we start to see that rain trying to stay together. I don't think this is going to be nearly as intense. I don't think we have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. In fact, I mean, we have really low dew points. Even if we go higher up in the atmosphere, I just don't see a lot of convective properties to make this like a big deal. There's no cape, nothing to lift. Even I would say I was looking at helicity, it's so low, and you can really clearly see where that front is when I pop this up. So I, at this point, am just calling for a pop-up shower to kind of save my butt a little bit, but that's going to move on out. I don't think we see much resurgence in the afternoon as dry air really just kind of like impedes that whole system. But what I do see happening, well, first up, let me show you the SKU-T chart, which is, again, the vertical profile of the atmosphere. So we have this dash line, that is our dew point temperature. And then we have a bit of an inversion tomorrow morning. Maybe we get a little fog in the morning. That's a possibility. I got to see how that shakes up. It doesn't look that impressive. It's a tiny little click there. But the reason I'm showing you this blue line is temperature. This is your dew point right here. You see all of this dry air. The further apart, the drier the air is. So what has to happen is you have your clouds up here where those two are close together. You have clouds that are pretty high up, and the raindrop's going to fall. And when it hits this dry air, it's going to evaporate. We need that atmosphere to moisten up. So the more raindrops that fall, the moister the atmosphere does get, which will eventually help to bring rain at the surface. So as we go through time, you see what happens. We get dry air, a little bit of moistening right here. So now we have lower clouds. So that's a better opportunity for that raindrop to get to the surface. Clouds are lowering. And there's still a big mess of dry air right here, this big chunk of air. So now let's watch what happens. We go forward in time. See how much it moistens up. And this is now at 12Z, at the same time that the weather models are highlighting the potential of some rain. I still see some dry air. We do have low clouds. Let's go one more forward. And yeah, I do think a raindrop could probably make it down at this point. But again, at this point, we're looking at 9 a.m. So is the front already out of here? So that is what I'm kind of grappling with. We have a lot of dry air still, but I do see some moistening in that atmosphere. And I do think that we could have that potential of a pop-up shower. So that's the look at the SKU-Ts. I do want to show you the 500 millibar chart because this is actually really important for the weekend. So we get our cold front. This is today. And then we get our cold front right here. You can see the isobars are kinked. That's our front. But watch what happens right here. See that? That little feature? I talked about this yesterday on 12 News at 11. I'm like, if that feature decides to just kind of hang out in Michigan, then our weekend's going to be totally different because we were originally tapping in on this ridge right here. But now, look what happens. It turns into an upper level low. Basically, you see what happens? It got out of the jet stream. So here it is. It decided to be its own buddy, kinked off those isobars. Now it's its own thing. When we deal with upper level lows, we tend to have a tendency to, or we have rather a tendency to be cooler and cloudier. And that looks to be the case going into, I would say, the whole weekend. Now, there is still some warm air there. I don't think it's going to be cold by any means, but it is going to be a little cooler than what I was expecting. The GFS picked up on this first. The European had that low way further east, but now that the European is hopping on that trend, I feel like it's definitely more likely. Even the GFS and some of the other models are picking up on it pretty well. So that's why I want to pull up the GFS over here to look at any of these minor rain chances. It does try to pull on some lake effect clouds and some lake effect showers. I would say we get clouds out of that. I think we're just too dry to get that to turn into full on showers. The weekend's still going to be fine. It's just going to be a little cooler than what I was expecting. So there's that upper level low. You're going to watch it twirl. Okay, so right here, there's your front. Go forward in time. Here's your front. You see that without even having the temperatures on here, you can find this by looking at the kinks in those isobars. So follow that isobaric line and not only look at the winds, northwesterly winds, southwesterly. So right where those winds converge, you have that cold front. So, but watch the low. Ugh, it just spins right over Michigan, which reinforces cool air right over us for the entire weekend. So I still think we hit 60s. I just think it's going to be low 60s. And then we go to Sunday. That low still kind of hanging out with us a little bit. I think low 60s are definitely the possibility. Then we hit 70 one day instead of a few days. That low moves out. We get another cold front on the way Monday. Very obvious where it is. We still hit those low 70s, and then we get cold air coming back for the rest of the week. So that is what we are looking like here, guys. I am keeping a close eye on everything else, hopefully for a big Brewers win today. I don't want to go into game 5. That's too stressful. But you guys have a great Thursday. Talk to you later.